what this Learning Lab is about is adding new content to our notification, to the message that we're getting in the email that's sent with the notification. So in order to do this, we're going to have to first connect to an AF database. That's going to be to either the one that you created before, if you've been following all these exercises, or that solution AF database. You're going to select the status notification. Now that was the notification that was done in the previous exercise, but don't worry, if you haven't done that previous exercise, you can always just choose the solution version to take a look at how it's configured. You're going to go ahead and edit the delivery message to include some custom content. That's really the whole purpose. And then we'll go ahead and assign what particular pieces of content are going to be sent to each of the subscribers. And let's look at the end result. The end result is going to look like this. It's the notification that we configured in the previous exercise. In this case, actually, I've got one extra condition just to make it a little easier for me to test this. But it's essentially the same notification we did before, except under content, what I've done is I've added some new content. I've specified, through this add content that we're going to send, in addition to the regular content, we're going to send things like this instant trend link, and also a link to a website, and also a file attachment. Now when I say standard content, what I'm referring to is the things that we normally send whenever we send a notification. So that's going to be things like the name, the description, the target. All that stuff was part of the normal standard content. It may not have been really apparent, but all of these things were in those emails that we were sending. So for example, if I go back into Outlook and we take a look at some of these notifications, the email notifications we were getting before, all these things are listed: name, server, database, start time, trigger time, etc. So these are the things that are normally sent with the with that notification, that email notification. Now, in addition, there is some custom content that can be added. So things like adding constant values, adding an attribute value, adding a web link, something that's going to go out and make a link to either something in RT Web Parts, for example, or just some external link. You can do that. And you can also send file attachments or just links to files that are somewhere stored commonly in your network using a UNC reference. Now some of these things are going to be available only if you have other applications. So for example, RT Web Parts link, that's only going to be made available if you've got RT Web Parts and SharePoint installed within and configured so that we recognize that in notifications. So in our exercise today, here are the things, the extra content that we're going to be adding. We're going to be adding a web link. Now this is going to be a web link to a SharePoint site that is on this Learning Lab environment. So we're simply going to make a link to that. We're also going to make a file link. Okay. And this file link is a UNC reference. The / indicates the name of the server, and then the next slash separates the server name from the share name. So what we're seeing here, that is the share name, and here this is the server name. Now that is the type of link that we support. You are going to have to make that with a UNC reference. But if you take a look at that particular share on the Learning Lab environment, you'll find this file. So we're going to be doing a file link. Now this is going to have to be something that's commonly available to everybody who's going to be receiving this email. Now alternately, we could have done this as simply a file attachment, but that's going to be sending emails all over the place, and if you have the option to store these centrally, it would be a better option to store these centrally. That way if you need to make changes, they're all being made in one place, and then everybody gets the update. And then finally, we're going to be adding this instant RT Web Parts trend link. Now that's only going to appear if within your RT Web Parts server configuration under Tools, Notification Setting, and Global Configuration, you actually have specified this RT Web Parts server. So let me explain. I meant to say if within your notifications configuration you have specified an RT Web Parts server. So let me demonstrate. If we bring up our Solution Explorer here, we're looking at notifications. If I go into the notification section, and if you go into Tools, Notification Settings, under Global Configuration, this is where, as you can see, I do have an RT Web Parts server configured, which is actually the same machine that the notification server is on. So that's because that's there, then we do have the option to add this link to an instant RT Web Parts trend. Now you'll find in the documentation there is enough information in the approach section to do all this without having to look at the step-by-step instructions. But in case you do want to take a look at how to do this procedurally, one step at a time, you can always choose step by step, and we'll describe that describes exactly what to do. And in fact, that's what we're going to be doing right now. Well, the big finish to all this is if you've done it all properly, when you're done, you've got an email that looks like this, that has not just the normal content that we're used to seeing, but as you can see, it's got additional content. In this case, we've got an instant RT Web Part trend. If I click on here, it's going to go out and launch a copy of, or launch a web window or an Internet Explorer window that's going to show us RT Web Parts trend. Now that's only going to work, of course, in your environment if you're using SharePoint and you've got RT Web Parts installed. So there we go. There's our RT Web Parts trend. Now I can look at this and start changing the start time and end time, and making inquiries to go back and look at more data. Now another thing that's been attached here is, as you can see, there's a content attachment. It's that process book display. So when I click on here, it's going to go out and launch process book and then open up this display. So here's our process book display. Not very interesting data, but there's our process book display. And this link right here is that it's just a simple link that goes out to, in this case, a SharePoint website. So this is going to the Learning Lab environment. It's the site where we're doing our RT Web Parts exercises, but you could put any web link that you wanted there. There we go. So that's the big finish. These are the content options you're going to have available to you.